Today is the day. This week brings college football. I'm going to give you my 16 Big 12 teams ranked for 2025, and all of them will be correct. This is a Locked On Big 12, Locked On College Football crossover.
You are Locked On Big 12, your daily podcast on the Big 12 Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Monday, everybody. Welcome to a Locked On Big 12, Locked On College Football crossover. I'm
shooting marbles over there? What was in your hand?
It was a clap. I don't know.
Oh, you looked down. I thought you lost something. I thought you were flipping. Anyway.
I lost my pride. This is the most nervous that I've been for a show this year. That's Spencer McLaughlin of College Football. Locked On College? What do they call your show now?
Locked On College Football with Spencer McLaughlin. Yeah, you had all of the pieces. You just didn't put them in the right order. Yeah,
we're going to start with my 16 teams, where they will end up in 2025 out of the Big 12. Then the AP poll, not great. I don't love it. It's not going to help us. And finally, the SEC has a chokehold on strength of schedule, and it's rigged, I tell you. Spencer is a voice of reason. Let's see if he can calm me down a little bit. If you hit subscribe, we can keep our jobs. Here it comes. I have buried this all offseason. Joel Klatt releases his in July when things get slow. No, I save it. I'm the number one team in the Big 12 in 2025. They're the best roster. It's the Texas Tech. It's the Texas Tech Red Raiders at number one in the league. Before we get too deep in this, quick thoughts on Texas Tech.
They're deserving of the hype. And look, I have staked my claim, planted my flag, if you will, on two teams this year that have for a long time in the college football world been in you can't get over that hump mode. And this is the year I think at least one of them does. Those teams are Texas Tech and Penn State. I have picked Penn State to go undefeated. I have taken plenty of pushback for that. I think Texas Tech wins 10 regular season games this year. They have had, first of all, let's just not overlook the fact that they were a good team last year. They had a spectacular offseason. There's a lot of momentum. With that comes pressure. Pressure is a privilege. I like Baron Morton. I like Joey McGuire. I like the trench upgrades they made. In particular, Romello Height and David Bailey are real pass rushers. I like Texas Tech. Having them number one is awesome. What are you doing at number two? And why are you just trying to get BYU fans to watch your show?
The number two BYU Cougars. Here's why.
Oh my gosh.
Quick run through. I think that Portland State, Stanford, East Carolina, all easy wins. Colorado is another pretty easy one. West Virginia, Arizona. That's how their schedule starts off. That's really, really easy. I didn't name an elite team in there. I think Utah, being a home game for BYU, gives them an advantage. From there, they have every ability to beat Iowa State. I think Iowa State will be middling in the Big 12 this year. I have them at 11th. I can explain why later. I think BYU loses at Texas Tech. I think they lose at home to TCU. I like TCU. But then Cincinnati and UCF to round it out. Easy schedule. BYU at 2, but I have Utah at 3.
Okay, so a couple of things. Can we get that graphic back up there? Producer Jim in the back.
You can. Can I give you a few more here just for the folks who are listening on the audio that want to know the entire 16?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, we'll get to talking points, but it's Utah at 3, at 4, Kansas State, 5, Arizona, 6, Baylor, 7,
5, Arizona State.
Sorry.
Oh, my goodness.
Sorry. 6, Baylor, 7, the Houston Cougars, 8, the West Virginia Mountaineers.
Ooh.
That's right. 9, TCU, 10, Kansas, 11, Iowa State, 12, Oklahoma State, 13, Colorado, 14, Cincinnati, 15, Arizona, 16, UCF. I'll go through them again at the end of the segment.
Okay, so we have the same pieces of bread in the sandwich. We have constructed our sandwich a little bit differently. Texas Tech won, UCF last. There are two reasons that I put UCF last, and I didn't hesitate. I actually started there when I made my Big 12 rankings, which I had the guts to let sit out there for months at a time here at the Locked On Network. I'll just point that out. Drake didn't. But anyway, so he just wants to get his rankings out there and then let them fade into the background and oblivion as the season actually gets underway.
Because everyone's still talking about yours.
I am. Anyway, so UCF being last is so warranted because you're starting over with Scott Frost, and they have hired Alex Grinch to be their defensive coordinator.
The Grink.
I have no earthly idea what he has ever... Why? Just why? Someone explain to me how he just bamboozled Scott Frost.
The orchestrator of some of the best offenses of all time. He's coached on teams with some great offenses.
Maybe that's what Frost is doing. He wants the offense to be confident, so he's got Grinch out there scheming up the defense in practice, okay? We agree on that. We agree Arizona's low. We agree Cincy's low. We agree Colorado's low. Oklahoma State is low. I have no earthly idea what BYU is doing at 2 and Iowa State is doing at 11. I understand taking teams in the crazy Big 12 from last year that were towards the top of the conference and saying, okay, there's going to be some regression. There's going to be a pullback to the mean because you punched a little above your weight. To me, that's BYU because they were winning in a less durable fashion last year. And now they don't have their quarterback since Jake Retzloff is a member of the Tulane Green Wave. Whoosh, is that the sign that they make?
But again, Portland State, Stanford, East Carolina, Colorado, West Virginia, Arizona.
Right.
For 6. That's like 6.
No, I agree. They can get off to a hot start. I've gone through their record on my show. I think they're a 7-8 win team because of that. And Jake Hatch pointed out correctly, they weren't a quarterback-driven team last year.
True.
Retzloff did make some magical moments in that season, not the least of which was the Oklahoma State game. Do we all remember BYU with, 2 minutes to go was like 4th and 8 at their own 20 and won the game? Like, the Utah game was a coin toss and they, got a questionable call. Like, there's no world where, in my mind, I think that BYU being at the top is more likely than Iowa State by 9 slots. Iowa State, yes, they lost some NFL talent. It's why I don't have them top 2 or 3, because when you return your quarterback and you were the conference runners-up the year before, I think you should be given a fair amount of respect. That's overcorrecting, in my view, to have Iowa State at 11, and then Arizona State at 5. Hogwash. Complete and utter hogwash. I, again, did not have them number 1 for a reason. They're number 2 in my preseason power rankings because I respect Dillingham. They've got their coordinators, their quarterback, their top receiver back, and a bunch of other returners. They don't have Cam Scatterbo, and I think that can prove to be the difference maybe in why they don't get back to the Big 12 championship game. But Arizona State at 5 is heresy.
They are 9-3. Their losses are at Baylor, at Utah, and against Texas Tech.
I also have them at 9-3, but putting them at...
That puts them at 5th. There is a tie at 3. So, okay, fine. They're tied for 3rd. But by them losing those games, losing to Utah, and Utah, I think in my book, is 9-3, Utah gets the 3rd spot over Kansas State, who's also 9-3.
I suppose mine are power rankings. Yours are where the standings look at the end. So that's
freak out. Same record for Utah, Kansas State, Arizona State, and Baylor. They can all be 9-3 very feasibly.
Feasibly, yes. I don't trust Baylor as much as everybody else does.
I agree.
I don't think they're a train wreck. I don't think Aranda's getting fired after this year. It wouldn't be the least likely thing to ever happen. I think Baylor is solid. I don't know if they are the champions of the Big 12. But
9-3 is fine. Maybe 8-4.
Yeah, I haven't gone through their record yet. I don't know if I would go higher than 9-3. I'd probably land on 8-4 or 7-5.
Speaking of 8-4, by the way,
not bad.
The Houston Cougars and the West Virginia Mountaineers.
I loved that one. Okay, West Virginia, you lost me. I just don't place that sort of expectation on a first-year coach that's igniting a rebuild. So I'm not as high on West Virginia there because there's just a lot of things to sort out.
I think they win at Kansas. I think they can win at Kansas.
Jalen Daniels is still there. Lance Leipold is still there.
They lose to Utah. They lose to BYU at BYU. I think that there's the UCF game. TCU at home, at Houston even, Colorado.
I like TCU more.
Probably Houston too, but I think they could win either of those. Arizona State on the road is a loss, and Texas
How many
Tech
wins are you giving West Virginia?
8.
That's too many. That's too many. That's too many in year 1. Year 2 or 3, you can talk me into it, but year 1, no, I don't think so. The Houston inclusion, I just talked about this on a recent episode of my show. I love the Houston love. Now, I'm not seeing an Arizona State level leap to the Big 12 championship game, but as Parker Ainsworth remarked to me, why not? Wow. You can't actually give me a good reason. You can't.
Wow.
I know, right? He said that. He said, why not? And I said, Yeah, actually, I don't know why not. Like, I'm just trying to be reasonable in the craziest conference in the country. Yeah, I don't really know what. So like that's possible. I think Connor Wigman's solid. I think Willie Fritz is good. I think the roster has improved significantly from a year ago. Might take them a while to settle in with the transfers, but I think that Houston. I think Houston's worthy of being a top half team in the Big 12. I like Willie Fritz.
All right, that was Texas Tech at 1. They'll finish 11-2. BYU at 10-2 will finish the 2 spot. That's Arlington. Utah, Kansas State, Arizona State, Baylor, all at 9-3. Our 8-4 squad will be Houston, West Virginia, TCU, Kansas. 7-5, Iowa State. I'll explain why in later episodes. Oklahoma State, Colorado both go bowling at 6-6 because the non-conference slate isn't the worst thing in the world. We'll see what
Colorado's got. Georgia Tech.
They do, and that's going to be a fun one. I have them winning that game.
It's going to be. I know. No, incorrect. I will not be standing for Brent Key slander on this podcast or any other one.
Haynes King. Cincinnati 5-7. I think this could possibly be the end of Scott Satterfield. 5-7 is just not fun.
Good thing you've never said that before.
Arizona, UCF, both at 2-10. By the way, if you are keeping track, last season I said Houston would go 1-11. I said that BYU would go 7-5. I said that Arizona State would go 6-6, even worse, and that Arizona State would go 3-9.
You picked Arizona State under 4.5. That was the easiest over of the year last season.
They won the Big 12. They won the Big 12.
This guy.
Coming up, AP poll, bad or good? Locked on Big 12, locked on college football. Today's show is brought to you by Game Time. Game Time's where I go when I want to go to a concert. The Red Clay Strays were playing. They're a cool, red dirt band. I like them. And the show was genuinely 17 minutes away. As far as it was starting in 17 minutes, I was 13 minutes away. I'm going to get in the Uber and buy the tickets on route, $10. Game Time, up to 60% off. Killer last minute deals. Endless scrolling, gone. Zone deals are for you. The app shows you a panoramic seat view, and with Game Time, the price you see is the price you pay, no hidden fees. Take the guesswork out of buying concert and show tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices, that is guaranteed with Game Time. This is fun. The AP poll gives seven Big 12 teams, top 28 slots. If you count those first 3 out, Utah, Baylor, and BYU. Shehan Jayarasha pointed out the Big 10 only got 6. Well, the Big 12 a little bit deeper this year. Did you think the AP poll was fair to the Big 12 conference?
Not entirely. I didn't think it was hilariously disrespectful.
I agree.
I didn't think it was perfect. I thought Kansas State was a touch low. I thought Texas Tech
at 17?
was... Yeah. Okay. I thought they were a touch low. I really like Kansas State this year. I thought Texas Tech was a touch low. Because here's the thing on the Tech factor. I also just realized something tragic. Oh, no. Oh, no. Drake, we have the same preseason top team in the Big 12 again. Oh, no.
Stop it.
Oh, no. Oh, that's Red Raiders fans. I'm so sorry. Ask Utah fans what happened last year, and they will probably tell you that Drake and I are the bane of their existence. So
and Kansas and
Kansas. Yeah. So anyway, just had that realization in real time. So the logic that is being applied to put Oklahoma into the top 20 is not being granted to Texas Tech, which is. Okay. I think the biggest example and the best example of what I'm talking about with regards to where the AP poll, the preseason is flawed. The preseason AP poll. Can I try English? Really I'm so close. I'm so close. Which is where I think the preseason AP poll is flawed. Can I get a round of applause, please?
Nicely done.
So Oklahoma is a team I do actually like. I think they are an 8-win team or so in the SEC, not in the college football playoff. And I'm not going down the John Mateer rabbit hole here. So
it's an inside joke. It's just a game with my buddies.
It's an inside joke.
Don't even get it.
That's why we're not explaining it. It's an inside joke. So the logic that I think the AP voters are applying to Oklahoma is, they weren't great last year, but they kind of showed some flashes, and then they went out and had a great offseason. Tell me how that doesn't apply to Texas Tech, who had a better record last year. Oh, but the SEC. Yeah, okay. Oklahoma lost to Navy to end the season. And that isn't being considered in the Oklahoma calculation. But what is being considered is, well, Michigan was hot to end the year. And look, they beat Alabama over there. Well, hold on. Vanderbilt beat Alabama last year. Now, admittedly, that's a bowl team, but still, that's a thing that happened. Michigan's all the way up at 14. Florida's all the way up at 15, because we just forget the first half of college football seasons. Like, if you want to make the argument for the Gators and the Sooners being in the top 25, fine. I think you can make that argument. I think it's easier to do with Florida, frankly, than it is with Oklahoma, because I've seen DJ Lagway win games in the SEC at quarterback. I have not seen John Mateer take a single snap against an SEC defense.
And maybe he won't.
He will, but I think he can be good, just to be clear. I just don't know that 100%. Cam Ward wound up being the number 1 overall pick. Go look at his first 6 games in his first season at Washington State in the Pac-12, RIP, and his last 6 games. There were vast discrepancies there. So there can be an adjustment phase when you take that step up, is all I'm saying. So those were the biggest objections I had. Florida, Oklahoma, Michigan, way too high. Texas Tech, too low. Frankly, I'm happy Kansas State got into the top 20. They deserve it. You're going into year 3 starting Avery Johnson. You have got a proven winner who's won a conference championship within the last 4 seasons. You've got a roster that I think has got enough playmakers to go and win games. You've got a schedule that's incredibly beneficial in my view. And so you can phrase, your vote however you like. Is it based on where you think they're going to end up or where you think they should be going into the year? I'm more in camp 1. I'm happy Arizona State was barely outside the top 10. I didn't seriously object to them being outside the top 10. They were the only reigning conference champ to not be in there, I believe, at the Power 4 level, because Clemson is in the top 10, Oregon's in the top 10, and Georgia is in the top 10, deservedly so. So if you'd like to frame that as anti-Big 12 bias, I don't know that I'd have a great argument to push back. I just think being in 11, think you're kind of splitting hairs at that point. If Arizona State were outside the top 12, I would find that to be more objectionable.
Where I get a little sad is having the 3 teams, the first 3 out, when there's not a number by your name. We don't have to justify moving you up in the AP poll. So, for example, let's say the number 24 team in the country loses in week 1. It's not a guarantee that Baylor or BYU or Utah get to fill that spot and jump in the top 25. If they were sitting at number 25, they do. They're not going to be bumped out. Now, automatically, because of the optic, you're starting to leapfrog people and move your way up. So it's almost like those 3 spots don't really exist that much. They don't have to. They're not set in stone. And 2, when you don't have the number by your name, but Boise State does, you don't get a ranked win for your opponent. The Big 12 doesn't get ranked wins. We're not setting ourselves up to have ranked wins. And hopefully, by the time we get to conference play, we get there. But even worse, our opening conference game is a game ranked versus ranked, and the loser probably drops out of the top 25.
Which is ridiculous.
There's a really good chance that happens. And that's where I think the Big 12 ultimately loses in the AP poll.
I think the only way it's justifiable to drop the loser of Farmageddon out of the top 25 right away is if they're trounced. If you get housed, okay, maybe we were wrong on you, but if this game comes down to a field goal that does or does not go in, are you telling me that suddenly shouldn't count as a ranked win for one of the teams and that another team should be perceptionally that much further away from being one of the 15 to 20 best teams in college football? I don't think so. And I think it's great that we have this matchup early in the year. I think if you lose a second game within the next couple weeks, okay, now you can be dropped out of the top 25 because results do need to matter. But I mean, how far are Texas or Oklahoma, or not Ohio State? How far are Texas or Ohio State going to drop when one of those teams loses their week 1 bout, number 1 versus number 3?
2 spots.
Do you think it'll be that far?
Yeah.
I think Texas could drop to number 3 and just swap places with Ohio State. I could see that happen. I think Texas is going to win the game, so we don't have to worry about that. But Ohio State comes in preseason number 3. If they lose to number 1, even though it's at home, yeah, maybe they go down to number 5. But should they really drop it all? If it's a close game, you lose by 14 and 20 points, different conversation.
Yeah, it's maybe part of that is the whole Big 12. Part of that is the Big 12 thing. If Arizona State was number 3 preseason and lost number 1, they're going to drop more than 2 spots. Brands matter in the AP poll. Brands matter in these rankings. What you've done last year and the 5 years, 10 years prior, that goes a long way. And that's why I think the Big 12 doesn't get a fair shake, is because for every 2 or 3 years, Iowa State goes 8-4, 9-3, 10-2. They have one like they had in 2022 where they go 3-9. And then we just set ourselves back. And Kansas State goes 8-4, and you end up at 24 at best. And you set yourself back. That's not good.
No, I don't think that it is. I agree with you on the brand power thing, because give me the non-SEC brand, SEC Big Ten brands that could go 6-7, 8-5, and 8-5, and be inside the top 20. Oklahoma, Florida, and Michigan. All 3 get that benefit of the doubt. I understand why. Not that I agree with it, because I don't. And again, it's not like you can't see some projection of progress for Florida and for Oklahoma or Michigan, for that matter, and say, we think they're going to be better in this regard. Florida could have a nasty receiving core, really talented quarterback who, again, hasn't even started yet a full season of college football. I've watched Avery Johnson do it, just to be clear. And since, wins are what kind of drive this thing as much as anything else, I think Avery Johnson is going to be able to lead Kansas State to a whole heck of a lot of wins. And I think that's the other way that the polls can get skewed at times, particularly with the AP, which does matter. Some people are basing it on who I think will be good, and some people are basing it on who deserves to be in that spot. Because if you're talking for a preseason ranking, deserving to be in that spot is based on what you did the year before. Then Oklahoma shouldn't be a top 25 team. But Oklahoma went out and had a really good offseason and got one of the best quarterbacks that moved in the portal and got a great running back from the Pac-12, RIP, and did a lot of really good things. And Deion Burks is still there. Okay, those are tangibly good moves. But I think that inconsistency is why you see some of these rankings not make sense. Why is Tech at 23 compared to Oklahoma at 18? That's too big of a gap for 2 programs that just did the same thing, except Texas Tech won more games last year.
And had a better portal class, by the way.
Yes, and had a better transfer portal class. And I know what the argument is from the SEC crowd. And it's, the SEC is tougher. The SEC has a tougher schedule and all that. To which I say, I watched the non-conference results last year for the SEC, and they kind of stunk. And then the postseason rolled around, and they didn't make the title game again. So what exactly are we basing it on? Well, the last 15 to 20 years. But isn't the preseason AP poll supposed to be based off of last season and what you did this offseason? Anyway.
Coming up, strength of schedule is rigged. Locked on Big 12, Locked on College Football. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel has a brand new, incredible promotion. August 26th is FanDuel Futures Day, brand new holiday for football fans across the country. For 24 hours, FanDuel is giving you deals on NFL season predictions. Whether you're calling the MVP, eyeing a long shot division winner, or have your Super Bowl champion, this is your moment. Crown your champion in August, even if it's the Dallas Cowboys. Visit the FanDuel app today. Start planning your futures bets now. Visit Futures Day because Futures Day is one day and one day only, August 26th. FanDuel, play your game with FanDuel. Spencer McLaughlin of Locked on College Football. I called you. I didn't give you the answer to this. I called you and I said, how many SEC teams are in the top 20 in strength of schedule? You said 11. And I said, no, Spencer, it is 16 teams.
Yeah, okay.
There are 16 of them in the SEC. 20th in the country in strength of schedule is Missouri. They play 8 home games, and despite being in that conference, don't have a single game against a college football playoff team from last year. 20th in strength of schedule. Pretty cheesy non-conference as well. Kansas could be an issue. Can you tell me what happens when the number 20 team in ESPN's strength of schedule beats the number 16 team in strength of schedule?
Not much.
Because, see, it kind of feeds itself, doesn't it? When number 7 beats number 6 and number 1 beats number 10, you think, well, of course, that strength of schedule is only going up because you played the number 1 team in the strength of schedule, and you are the number 10 team. What we have created, if we get to the end of the season and say that wins don't matter, strength of schedule does, Missouri is going to be in the college football playoff over the runner-up of the Big 12, because before we've even done a snap, automatically Missouri has an incredible resume that should have them as deserving of a playoff spot if they win, say, 8 or 9 games.
Yeah, the comments by Tony Petitti at Big Ten Media Days were pretty repulsive, specifically with regards to, I don't find him to be a repulsive person, just to be clear.
Thank you.
But him saying an 8-4 record percentage-wise is a playoff team in just about every other sport. I was the Care Bear on Family Guy throwing himself in front of the moving truck. Okay, like I was, no, stop it. Just please stop it. Last year, 10-2 BYU got almost no consideration despite having a road win against an at-large playoff team and 10 wins on the year. Got basically no consideration for the college football playoff. Now, do I think they should have been in? No, I do not, because I think the committee got it right. Where the committee messes up the most, because I am way more pro-committee than most. I actually think most college football people, I talked to Cloud about this at Big Ten Media Days, and you know, I asked him, like, well,
and
why
he knew exactly who you were?
No, I don't think so. I just realized I could have lied there and no one would have known. But anyway, we had a nice chat because he and I see the playoff very differently about what the best format is, what's best for college football there. And I said, well, where do you think the committee's gotten it wrong? And he said, well, I don't think they've necessarily gotten it wrong. And I think that's a pretty common response. You know, Josh Pates told me the same thing. Like, no, the committee's not getting it wrong. I'm like, so what is your objection here? Why is everyone so, the committee's got to go? We can't have this committee. The committee is terrible. The best argument I've seen for getting rid of the committee is what happens on the back end of the top 25. There has been one team in each of the last several seasons in which I've watched them get ranked from the SEC, and it's been completely preposterous. That was Tennessee 2 years ago, was absolutely blown out. They didn't just lose to top 20 teams. They were housed. The score differential on aggregate was like 75-20 or something in back-to-back weeks. But they were sitting there at 8-4, still ranked inside the top 25. And last year, and the year before to an extent, it was Missouri, who had a good record. But I watched and went, yeah, okay, Texas A&M is a fine team, first-year head coach. They're a good team. They're nowhere near great. They're not a college football playoff team. Ran Missouri out of the building.
Yeah.
And the committee was just like, well, you know, they're in the SEC and they've got wins. Like, do these games just not matter at all whatsoever? It's the same thing when Lane Kiffin goes out there and says, look at what we had to do. Look at the schedule that we had to go through. I'm like, dog, you lost to Kentucky. Stop talking, please. It's just, it's annoying when that sort of stuff pops up and it's just inconsistent and it's definitely frustrating. If you're a Big 12 fan, yeah, I understand why you don't like a lot of these sort of metrics that get used to determine all of that. However, just in my own viewing, my own interpretation, I haven't seen the committee get it wrong yet. I'm including Florida State, by the way. I supported Florida State not being in a 14 playoff. Put them in a 12-team playoff. Guess what? It's not getting them closer to winning a national championship. Whether that was a 14 playoff or a 64-team playoff, I regret to inform Florida State fans, you are one Jordan Travis injury away from being able to win a national title. You weren't going to do that. I know because I watched them play without him. They were awful. They were literally awful. And that didn't change. They went and played in the bowl game, and both sides, I think, had players opt out. And what was it, 65-3?
It was historically bad.
Yeah, it was historically bad. Like, I just, at the end of each year, I have a good idea. You have a good idea. Everybody has a good idea of who's actually good enough to go win the national championship. You know who else knows that? The committee. The committee's got a pretty good idea, and I have not seen them in the confines and the rules that they are given get it wrong. They keep getting it in people's own words, right, over and over again, and then people come out, we got to get rid of the committee. I'm like, what did they mess up? They messed up some stuff on the back end. Okay, it's never going to be perfect. It's a subjective sport.
So this strength of schedule, I said rigged. I don't know what other word there is for it. We haven't played a game yet, and Missouri gets to be 20th. This doesn't worry you at all.
No, it does. It does, especially in a landscape that is seeing the SEC not be the same dominant conference that it once was. I have long been a proponent of SEC bias. The last 2 years of college football have changed my opinion. There was not, before the last couple of seasons, any year in which the SEC could just not even make the national championship game. No one should be expected to win it every year. I don't think the SEC suddenly sucks, and the SEC is just never going to win a national championship again. Not my take. What I am saying, and will continue to say, is this is not the same. Because what has happened over the last 2 years, I'm telling you, theoretically was impossible and literally was impossible. What was the last national championship game played without the SEC? Before these last two.
Without the SEC altogether, probably what, 2009? No. Oh.
You got to go back a long ways. And so once you introduce these big changes to roster composition with the portal and NIL, and suddenly something happens that hasn't happened in well over a decade, I'm supposed to believe that's a coincidence? Absolutely not. And so you can still look at the SEC and argue it's the best conference. I'd argue the Big Ten, seeing as though they're the one winning national championships at the moment. You can argue the SEC is clearly number 2. You can argue that it's got a lot of debt. You can do that, but you can't give it the same level of ingrained bias towards that league that you used to, or else you're just not being on it. And I don't care what the hypothetical spreads were and such, because I mean, I watched Arkansas lose to a garbage Oklahoma State team last year. I watched Auburn lose to a middling as hell Cal team last year. I watched Oklahoma lose its bowl game to Navy. I watched Alabama lose to a not very good but not great Michigan team. And Alabama had all their guys there and playing. Like, this is not... I watched Georgia get pushed around by Notre Dame. I watched Georgia Tech go into Athens and take them to 8 overtimes. Georgia Tech was what, the 4th team in the SEC or the ACC last year? 4th or 5th? Georgia was the SEC champs. Like, I can go on, but we just forgot. Miami went into the swamp and dog-walked Florida. We just forgot that all these things happen, and the offseason, I think, has been filled with a lot of narratives about, well, preseason polls say this, and the strength of schedule is all this sort of stuff. And I'm like, I'm sorry, this is just not the same as what it used to be.
Not all preseason polls are bad.
No, that one's good. When Texas Tech goes 8-4, you and I should resign from this network.
Yes, we should. I guess we should. Where can folks find more of your work?
YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. Locked On College Football and Locked On Ducks if you want to find out more about Oregon. And I'm on Twitter at @SMcLaughlinCFB if you want to tell me that this was fun and you enjoyed it, or that I definitely look like a famous cartoon villain from my childhood and your childhood. So, yeah, if you want to do any of that, by all means, shoot me a message anytime.
This has been It Always Will Be Locked On. It's a crossover between Big 12, college football, and thanks for making it your first listen every single day on Locked On Dose Grande.